One of the highest funded black budget underground black market operations throughout the world happens to be human cloning. The public is totally unaware, or at least the general public, of the advances in what we call, from an ignorant perspective, black magic sciences. Black magic is just a popular word, when in actual fact it's just science and technology, and how frequently these are being used. There are what we call DUMBs, D-U-M-B-S, which stands for Deep Underground Military Bases, not only in the USA or North America, but also in Europe, Russia, and the rest of the world, many of which are located under places most people would not expect, so in front of your noses. These DUMBs, they operate as functional underground cities where many people live, including scientists and like the brilliant minds of this world. What takes place on a daily basis in these underground cities or facilities, they push the boundaries of human comprehension, or at least normal humans like you and me in the world. And that's the reason why there has been such an aggressive disinformation campaign using the cooperation of the mass media. One of these elite, we call them elites because that's the only word we have for them. Some people call them Illuminati, but I don't like that word. It's far away from the purpose. Let's call them the elite groups. So one of the elite group's biggest fears, in a way, is the day when the general public, understands the extent to which cloning and the actual transfer of human consciousness, like we see in movies and TV series, has advanced. They would say they fear if this information goes public, because this obviously would lead to the eventual collapse of society, which means a full reset, just like it happened in the 1800s. This is why these operations function under the strictest security clearances, of course. And there's no information really, we just know, but the only thing we have is to speak to, like in this case, I'm just making a verbal video, but I don't have any actual pictures. So the thousands of deep underground military bases located across the world are another leading reason as to why people go missing on a routine basis. Some of these so-called black magic science experiments are conducted on individuals who just go missing. And I'm not going to go into details because that's a very disgusting world and topic. There are many underground tunnels and pathways under the infrastructure of almost every major city in the USA and also Europe and Russia, and of course I guess the rest of the continents as well, where the majority of these missing people are being taken. So this elite group of people who are in charge of all this, they spend most of their time in these underground cities. They're shielded there, so they're protected, and they can push the limits of any kind of fantasy that they may have, which, of course, as you know, technology and science, to a certain point, what we do not understand, we call it magic. And the following videos I'm going to make, I'm going to try to address it as best as possible without actually complicating myself too much or going into dark territory. But yeah, that's where we have the word of human synthetics or robotoids, or what we see in TV series like Westworld, or like in the Hollywood and TV series from the movies and stuff. The distinction between so there's a distinction between clones and synthetics, and we have to establish that. So clones are a carbon copy of a person that are implanted in an embryo and fertilized in an artificial setting, just like you see in the movies, and being born as a baby and having a normal growth cycle. That's a clone. It's pretty much an artificial human, a carbon copy of a certain DNA that already exists. Now, a synthetic, or like a robotoid, or a synthetic android, what you want to call them, just like the ones you see in Westworld. That's an organism that is grown out of the tissue of a person or an animal or mixed. Most frequently, they use lots of cattle, and they are then created to mirror the exact physical traits of the original or another clone using their DNA. That's why they can be created so fast and so quickly, because they're not a carbon copy. they're less natural, they're pretty much synthetic, artificial, and they're grown in a very accelerated manner, just like the Westworld hosts in the TV series. This is the more frequently used clone term, because for normal people, they don't make the difference between clones and synthetic androids or robotoids. So the main reason also is that a clone has a normal growth cycle, just like a human being, but a synthetic or an android or a robotoid can be grown in close to a year. And you can have a copy of a certain individual within a year. But that's the main difference. Synthetics or robotoids are inferior to actual carbon copy clones. And these synthetics, they're being used on a scale that is unimaginable to most people. And that's why they gave us the information through the so-called science fiction TV series and Hollywood movies. So you can begin to understand why this elite group of people, they would never make public such a thing. The general public would be horrified, and it will lose all faith in mankind. It would be the fall of religion and society as a whole if they even began to understand the total, what you call inhuman activities that are taking place on a daily basis in those cloning labs. And one of those activities is called splicing, just like the Hollywood movie Splice, if you've seen it. And it's not just a Hollywood movie, it's actually meant to portray the reality of what's happening, adding a bit of horror as usual, because horror attracts the public masses into watching something, or being attracted to something like that. And I wouldn't say there's a fear of a aware public, so they don't actually are afraid of the public knowing. But of course they would, in my opinion, they're actually doing a very good job in hiding these things, because it would be the collapse of human society as we know it if this thing would just be in the news all of a sudden. Now there is an elite black market also, they say, where celebrities, doesn't matter if it's a celebrity as an actor or singers or pop called celebrities or whatever, celebrities are cloned and their clones are being sold. So many of the wealthiest individuals, they have clones that are used as sex slaves, and some of these celebrities are aware that there are clones of them in existence that are used in this way. Obviously it wouldn't affect them because the clone is another individual. So even though it's a clone based on a celebrity, it's a totally entire new person. But it's the attractiveness of, imagine using the clone of your favorite celebrity to sleep with, right? And to use it for that purpose only. Not only that, but celebrities who are uncompliant sometimes to this group, they're at risk of being replaced. Many forget that they have their DNA tissue collected from them in the earlier stages of when they started being famous. So there is a whole world that is hidden from the public where people are cloned, synthetically manufactured, sold, used as replacements, and even being harvested for organs, just like we see in the movie The Island from 2005. I think Scarlett Johansson plays in that movie as well. Again, movies are meant to show the reality of the world we live in, but masking it as science fiction just because that's the program, and that's what it's meant to be given in that way to the public. Okay, anyway, you don't have to believe any of this. I'm just telling you what it's common logic and pure common sense, and also what we are being told through popular culture, because I consider popular culture not just for entertainment purposes, but it's actually a programming and a revealing of the truth disguised as popular culture and science fiction. See you next.